Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And in this particular storyline, this is a crisis that is happening throughout our entire country, let alone around the world. And there are two issues in particular that is going to wipe out an entire youthful generation of folks. One is youth gun violence and uneducatedness. And the second is the opioid crisis. And I want to get into what was the precipitous to this opioid pandemic and epidemic that is taking place in the United States. And it has to deal with one particular company and one particular family, allegedly. What is the company? Purdue Pharma, which is owned by the Sacklers. And for those who are not familiar with who the Sackler family is, and their relationship with the development of Oxycontin was the precursor to where we're at today with the level of homelessness and helplessness and the opioid abuse that is taking place in today's time. And we also know that there have been several famous entertainers that have succumbed to this opioid crisis. Drug abuse and drug usage, just like gun violence, does not have a barrier based on a zip code, a city or county, state. This has been a panacea across the entire country. It doesn't care what race, color, gender, or creed you are. It can approach anybody, rich or poor. I know several individuals who have been parents who have lost their children from all socioeconomic classes, and whether they were white or black. The opioid crisis has even hit my family. And so I want to take a deep dive into what's going on with the Purdue Pharma company and the Sackler families, because there's been a huge settlement that has been reached that is worth $7.4 billion. And well, let's see what kind of effect this is going to have on the responsibility, accountability of Purdue Pharma, the Sackler family, and is this going to change the course of action for where we're headed in trying to get rid of this opioid crisis. So let's go. Purdue Pharma, the Sacklers, reach a new $7.4 billion opioid settlement. All 50 states, as well as the District of Columbia and U.S. territories, have approved a $7.4 billion settlement with Purdue Pharma, maker of Oxycontin, over the company's improper marketing of opioids. The deal was filed with a federal bankruptcy court by Purdue Pharma officials in March after negotiations with state attorneys general and other stakeholders. If this plan is finalized, payouts will occur over the next 15 years. In a statement, New York's Attorney General Letitia James said the plan will hold the Sackler family accountable for what she described as their leading role in fueling the epidemic of opioid addiction and overdoses. Under the outlines of the deal, members of the Sackler family, who currently own Purdue Pharma, are expected to contribute roughly $6.5 billion. According to the company, a major change from past settlement deals will mean people who wish to sue the Sacklers in civil court for alleged wrongdoing will not be forced to give up those lawsuits. So there is some legal language and legal maneuvering that's taking place in the federal courts. This is very important on how to go after the Sacklers financially. Because what do people pay attention to and listen to? Their wallets, not their hearts. Creditors can preserve their rights to take legal action against the Sacklers if they do not opt in to the Sackler releases contained in the plan, Purdue Pharma said in a statement. The firm sent a statement to NPR on Monday describing approval of the reorganization plan by states and territories as a critical milestone in finalizing a deal to provide billions of dollars to compensate victims, abate the opioid crisis, and deliver opioid use disorder and overdose rescue medicines that will save American lives. The Sacklers have said repeatedly that they didn't do anything wrong and committed no crimes. Can you believe that? NPR has reached out to members of the Sackler family for comment, but have yet to receive a response. In a joint statement sent to NPR, attorneys suing Purdue Pharma and the Sacklers praised the deal. After 5 years of litigation and 3 years in bankruptcy, we are pleased that all 55 eligible states and territories have unanimously agreed to accept, said members of the National Prescription Opiate Litigation Plaintiffs Executive Committee. They said the deal would add more than $7 billion in much-needed funds to help communities across the country recovering from the opioid crisis. Not everyone is satisfied with the deal. Ryan Hampton, an addiction recovery advocate who was addicted to Oxycontin back in the day and other opioids for more than a decade, said the deal only sets aside roughly $850 million to compensate direct victims from Purdue Pharma. I'd still give it an F, he said, at this point because it still falls short of anything meaningful that victims will receive, Hampton said. He estimated that his own direct payout would be roughly $3,500. And that is very true. When you have these large class action lawsuits and you have these attorneys that go after them, they want as many people as they possibly can to sign the documents for these class action lawsuits. And by the time, whether it's $1 billion or however big the pie is, by the time the payout for individuals to get their compensatory benefits or payouts, it is generally pennies on the dollar. So, but the real statement in filing these class action lawsuits and getting a civil judgment is to bring awareness and accountability to these companies that have literally committed fraud and led people down the wrong road. He also said, compared to how long and drawn out this process has been, it is very little money. Talking about $3,500 per person, Hampton said, adding, I'm ready to put it behind me and move on with my life. This settlement will have to be approved by a federal bankruptcy court, so it's not done yet. Experts tell NPR this version of the deal is likely to be accepted by the courts and by the U.S. Justice Department. The DOJ's bankruptcy watchdog agency challenged earlier settlement attempts, leading to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to overturn a previous bankruptcy deal with Purdue Pharma and the Sacklers back in July 2024. If finalized, this settlement will add more than $50 billion in opioid payouts by corporations that profited from manufacture, distribution, and retail of opioid painkillers at a time when overdoses and drug deaths were skyrocketing in the U.S. This is very, very important. If you look at today's time, and I've been around a half a century at least, I have never seen the amount of people panhandling, sleeping on the streets, walking in zombie-like states, no matter black, white. Um, there is definitely something going on in the air. This opioid crisis is devastating our entire country from a morality standpoint, an ethical standpoint, a physical standpoint, a spiritual standpoint. And this needs to be addressed immediately. It is affecting everyone's family, whether it's directly affecting you with your children or a brother, sister, a cousin. Somewhere down the line, I have not met one person who does not have a family member that has that does not have an opioid issue. It is hitting everybody. You're talking about hell on wheels. And where are we going as a society? The only other thing that I think that is running a clear foot race with the opioid crisis that is decimating an entire generation of folks that will not make it is either going to be prison. If it's not recovery, it's going to be prison or death. The only other thing that's running that same race is youth gun violence and youth uneducatedness, not wanting to go to school, not wanting to uh, utilize learning as one of the top tools for being a successful human being and surviving in this society. The day you stop learning is the day you start dying. And to have this precipice of this opioid crisis that is taking place, we also know addiction does not align itself with learning and having a productive life. We have an entire generation of folks that are in a zombie-like state from an uneducated standpoint, a hopeless and helpless state from a gun violence standpoint. We're living in a time where this is the most inhumane society that I've ever seen. The value of another person's life means absolutely nothing. The way that people are dealing with conflict and resolution is either overly medicating themselves with street drugs and or deciding to harm an individual through a disagreement and shooting them. There are way too many guns on the street, and there is way too much drugs and opioids, illegal opioids on the street. We have to do something about it. This world is changing dynamically each and every day. The Sackler family needs to be held accountable for what they allegedly have contributed to this issue. Oxycontin has been a front runner and a leader in this entire machination of addiction, and someone needs to be held accountable. When you look at how the Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family marketed to physicians, this is how it goes. There's a downward ladder. Purdue Pharma markets it to the physicians. The physicians market it to their patients and insurance companies. And there are many stories of individuals that had back pain, had health issues, started out with Oxycontin. When their insurance ran out or changed their jobs or lost their jobs, many of these people went to street drugs. And this is where the opioid crisis went from a brush fire to a wildfire. When you talk about RICO cases, racketeering, collusion, you have the federal government going after individuals, the Jeffrey Epstein's, the Sean Puffy Combs, the Bill Cosby's of the world. But it is amazing that Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family could have possibly and allegedly caused more harm to more people than Cosby, Puffy Combs, Epstein, Harvey Weinstein all put together. And there are not any criminal charges being filed against them. There are more people that have died at the hands of Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, quite possibly. And there are no criminal charges. That is amazing. We're talking only civil cases. There also has been um, a backlash with the Sackler family. They had their names all over buildings, museums in New York City. Their names have been taken down. For those who don't know, there are several Sacklers who are physicians and were physicians. Is also antithetical because when you become a physician, you're supposed to be in the business of helping and healing and not hurting people. And so these Sacklers were physicians. They started to get on the business side and start this Purdue Pharma company, and the end result was not helping and healing, but it was hurting and causing destruction throughout our entire country and our entire society. I think that's criminal. But here again, money and power and influence. The Sacklers have always stayed in the dark. In the medical community, they're kind of looked upon as the Rothschilds of the opioid situation and painkillers. You hear about them, but you don't see them. If a Sackler walked down the street, you wouldn't know who that person was. They have stayed in the dark. But as we all know, things that are in the dark, that are filled with darkness, at some point will come to the light. And hopefully this federal decision on this $7.5 billion, $7.4 billion settlement agreement, hopefully it could put a little bit of a stifle in this whole opioid epidemic and make the Purdue Pharma company and the Sackler family accountable and responsible historically for what has taken place in our country. We're losing people each and every day. The zombie-like state that folks are in, the overdoses, the level of youth gun violence and drug abuse, the inhumanity that we're living in this state, in this country today. Biblically, it makes you feel like you're at the end of times. There are other wars and things that are going on right now and across our world, but right here in the United States, we have a lot of issues that need to be addressed each and every day. And this opioid crisis is right at the top of our immoral and our unethical and our inhumane status that we live in today. Tell me what you think of this story about Purdue Pharma and the Sacklers reaching a $7.4 billion opioid settlement, and what is going to happen next. Hopefully it will be more positive than negative. This has been a Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth.